You are watching Weirdo Universe, where wonders take flight. I'm Amon,
And I'm AJ.
and welcome to another episode as we're keeping the October season of spookiness. And today, we decided we're going to tag in with a, a gaming franchise called from the Dark Pictures, right?
The Dark Pictures Anthology.
Anthology series that these that been doing like spooky games or taking myths or real stories and trying to make it convert into fiction. And the first game that came out was Until Dawn, and since then they added four more installments. And the one we're going to talk about was the next installment called The Man of Medan. And what's interesting about that story, there's some urban legend to it that we found out. So pretty much the story goes back in the 1940s, an SS ship called literally the Rang Medan went to Manchuria, China, and Manchuria, China, and took this thing called Manchurian gold. They figured it was like treasure, but as it turns out, there's something with it. And the reason I'm putting this information, this is what the game did. They used that sort of story of this SS ship of this SS ship from the U.S. military, and they changed the story a little bit. So pretty much, but here's the real story, or at least the real urban legend to it. So the story of the Man of Medan, based on it's an urban legend based on the SSS Orang Medan, and the supposedly cause that happened in the 1940s, according to the legend. They received a distress signal from that ship, and literally the message was, and I quote, "I die." And as the rest of the ship and the entire crew went there, they found it adrift, and they were just in like shocked and horror to see the entire crew pretty much like almost like scared in fear, like frozen, with no injuries, nothing, just dead with from unknown. And as when they found the ship, they took it, and as they were carrying it away, they noticed some smoke in their like cargo hold, and the ship exploded and sank in the Pacific. So there's a lot of theories and a lot of discoveries of what happened. And so the game took that information and made a little story. So the game starts off of these four or six people on an island on the outside of where the location was, but like somewhere out in the Pacific, like a small island, and they discovered a down World II plane, and as they were taking it, they were like trying to figure out, it's like did it crash? Did it like what's it doing in the middle of the ocean? And some of the characters, some of them are careless, uh, picky, or like, and some are like careful. And I'll take it to AJ to tell you more about it. Okay, hang on, no, not yet. But so they decided to figure it out. They're like, let's go. They have their own little private boat, and the person that was in charge of like more like the tour guide was saying like, don't touch anything. But of course, some of the characters, at least one of them, was feeling a bit picky. It's like, oh, what's the problem? like, what's the problem? So they went off. So they take off, and as they go, and around these parts, there's a lot of like pirates. So a small pirate crew took the ship, like boarded their little boat, and they discover about what they discover about the about the ship, and so one escapes. Like in the game, in this game, there's like a lot of choices you make. You get these. There's also like these pictures that kind of like will tell you if something happened. It was something, an event that's going to happen or not happen, but at least want to get you prepared when it occurs. What's the right choice, or what's the choice to avoid? So one of those choices was about one of them trying to escape. So you don't know what. So you want to know if will he escape or not escape? Is it a good choice or a bad choice? So, but as this, so depending on that choice, but let's just say if one escapes and got away, so then leads to like a few more. So they get taken away and they find the ship. The SSS Orang Medan. So they find the ghost ship. But this time they changed the story. Instead of what the tale is that it exploded and sank. Let's just say it was just adrift. No one found it. They just find this ghost like SSS cruiser ship in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by fog or maybe mist. So as they board with the crew, so the pirates know about the treasure it holds, but not knowing its secrets at all. And as the story goes on, it's like now it's like survival where you're trying to escape, but then there's these like certain horrors within it. And if AJ's ready, I'll hand it over to him.
I hope so. I sorry, but I have a roommate that's doing Blender stuff right now, so forgive me. Um, due to the fact that I have a potential quick window of words. Pardon me. Aman, where did you leave off at? I got distracted.
I might have missed at least some of the intro, but I was just kind of telling you about the game of how the characters, how they went to the ghost ship when they got taken by
yeah.
pirates.
Okay, I'm gonna continue off from there. So like Aman was mentioning that about these 5 people, they were technically, some of them were divers in a sense, and well, I'm also currently playing the game a little bit, not at the moment, but I do have it paused. But from what I can tell, at least replaying the game after I don't remember how long, I've had this game on like standing by collecting dust for a few years. So, but these 5 people got, as like Aman mentioned, was that they had gotten 3. You said pirates, right?
Yeah, I think it was like a 3 or 4 man pirate crew.
Yeah. Now, mind you, they're not like legit pirate looking pirates. They're modern day type pirates. So, they did board their little ship and then eventually found a I want to say like a flight note or something written wise, talking about this potential treasure called Manchurian gold. However, not realizing this isn't actually gold until very later on, they forced the crew of the ship to take them to the location of the SS Orang Medan, and they board it. as you basically play through the game, they start realizing there is a lot more going on with the ship itself. So they start hearing things, they start seeing things, and basically everything in between. Like, I mean, any supernatural thing you could think of, they are
Occurrence.
now facing with it. Yeah. Um, I mean, they have, like Amon also mentioned, they have these pictures you could look through the game or find through the game and look through them, and they will show you certain events. And these are hints, in a sense, to tell you, in a way, okay, be prepared for this later on because this might happen. And when it does,
Or
it you have to make a decision depending on exactly what to do regarding that moment.
not just what to do, but even like you got to decide is it actually showing a good thing or a bad thing. Because
Yeah.
sometimes I think that's why when I saw a gameplay of it, it's actually like some of the pictures they show can actually trick you. You might think like, oh, okay, I need to do this, but the chances be like
Yeah.
that can now you just
Oh,
you kill the
speaking
character.
of tricks, actually, I realized replaying it today, I realized that they trick you a little bit with the choices that you make. So think of like the Telltale games, right? You got the like choices like on screen, and it'll show you like, okay, well, you got this option, then you got this option, and then you got just the option of just like say nothing, right? And I've noticed some of the choices, the way that they word it so well that it looks like a genuine, like nicer option or like a better option to choose. But in reality, when you pick that said option, it gives you a slightly more harsher
Yeah,
or
that's what's great. So in the thing like AJ mentioned, and Telltale is a good example. But in this game, they go for what do you think is right and what do you feel. But what you
the best
feel
part. Oh,
what you feel might be like oh because you're trusting your heart more than your mind, but sometimes the mind can play tricks. You might go have to really go on like your gut, but in this case your heart. So they do that
well,
throughout the game.
the best part about, actually, I'm going to add on to that, is that unlike really with the Telltale games, they do give you that like time limit. Like, you have to choose. You can't like just sit there and then like look between everything. It, like, I mean, it's like you got to choose quick and fast, but you have to also like pay attention to what you're picking as well. But the best part that I've noticed about this game is that they do it so well that they give you a little bit more time than like the Telltale games does at a lot of moments, but they keep up that fear factor. So it really has to make you like decide exactly what you're feeling up here and in your heart, because if you make the wrong choice, you end up making somebody, well, you end up having a well, like I said in the post the other day, earlier this week, is that it is life or death. So whatever decision you make defines on what the path you take. And a lot of those times, you could potentially have somebody die during these choices you're making, or potentially have them live. So it really is, with that, having that fear factor there while you're making these like crazy decisions in these intense moments, is really impactful because it really keeps you on your toes, at the same time trying to determine which is the better choice in the moment.
So like since you I mean I've seen gameplay once it came out, but what did like based on the story, but they changed it in a way instead of the ship actually exploding, they kept it adrift and just drift in the fog. But like, what did you think? Like, how well they did it based on like the urban legend?
I gotta say, I love the introduction of it because they do kind of they do start you off in like the 1940s, and this is exactly when that time is from. Is that the ship is from in between of World War II, so you have that like introduction to like, oh well, okay, they're loading up the ship. I think they're getting ready to like go home, go back to the United States, and
That's not good.
give it the chance to basically,
Yeah.
I guess, give you that introduction and make it think that it's actually haunted, that it's these spirits are causing this like chaos, when in reality it
But, like in reality, it kind of fools you. So I did a little quick research. So here's what makes it. Now you're wondering, is this actually a real story? And unfortunately, which might have make this real or not real, that there's actually no official records of that ship to even name that in any of the registry. So we don't
yeah
even know that the ship is actually was this actually happened in the 40s, or was
they
it just
I
like a
did do some
sailor's
research before we
character?
started. I did do some research before we started, and there was a ship called the shoot, the SS Silver Star is apparently the freighter, or the a rescue ship that found the um SS Orang Medan. But I don't know if they actually,
Well, actually, the SS Rank Medan, that's the legend is that's the ship.
yeah, but I don't know if they ever wrote it down. I don't know if they actually,
Well, this where the theory can be like a hoax. That there's even some
yeah.
evidence based on news reports from the 40s describing the exact same story, but happens later in time. So it suggests that the tale was fabricated. Like someone might have, maybe like an occurrence of somewhat in that sort of style happened and kind of just made it up, but try to use like the actual facts. We don't know. So that's what this is about. We thought to share this because not just how the game franchise did, but there's like a lot of speculation this this. Like, was this real?
Well,
Not real?
that's also the fun thing, is a lot of times with like paranormal or supernatural encounters, a lot of times you could debunk these things regarding like just regular, like ordinary stuff within the house. It could be some chemical um relation, it could be some type of like electrical thing or something that's like, I think it's too much like um electromagnetic stuff in the air or whatever, or in the vicinity. It will cause your mind to hallucinate that way, outside of like any chemical relations. But I mean, a lot of times there are usually like traces of like just physical attributes to create such hallucinogens. And a lot of times people don't really like realize this. I mean, a lot of times you could immediately just argue and assume that like, oh yeah, this is totally paranormal and it's unexplainable. But a lot of times you can explain it and debunk it from being actual paranormal activity if you have the right equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And um that's also where it gets a lot iffy, like very 50-50 at times, because you don't really know exactly entirely what you're picking up that is based off like the like EMF stuff that's picking up like electrical like waves, or if it's chemical residue or what. You don't necessarily know unless at times it's too late.
Cindy mentioned about like chemical bioweapon. That's actually the only common theory is that the ship was secretly transporting a substance called tabin, which is a nerve agent with sulfuric acid and other chemicals, which might have caused the death. And then the
In the
subsequent
game, they did change this to a substance called a chemical weapon called Manchurian gold. And remember this name because this is also where it gets really important regarding the game for sure. But go on, Amon.
Oh, well, I have nothing really to say. So, if you want to,
Well, I guess we could dive into a little bit about the where we left off regarding the game a bit, which was, I guess there was the part where they started like hallucinating everything and whatnot, right?
I did mention like because like one of the pictures is about the person to escape. Like, would you risk it for the person to escape, knowing there's a chance you could die on the escape?
Yeah.
Not.
Yeah,
So
you're talking about Conrad, right?
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know the player's name, so I'm just saying there's like if you want.
Yeah. There. Okay. So there's. Let's see. There's Brad, Julia, Alex, Conrad, and Fliss. I don't know about the captors. I know one of them was named like Olsen, I think. I could swear that they had said the name Olsen. I don't remember the other two though.
But here's what's kind of great how they made this game pretty fun. The one thing that we don't know that in the game they want to make consider real was actually some kind of like creature in the ship. Because I do recall in the game that the pirates that they were trying to find the gold, but the deeper they go into the ship, the more the chemical that's in their nerves and their brain.
Yeah, I think it's
that you see this like unbiological thing attacking.
Yeah,
you can't kill it because you don't know if it's actually real or you're the chemical, the maturing goal, like the chemical use was so much in the system that you're kind of like you're hallucinating so much you're just dead, like from fear, like you're the part.
See, the interesting thing about that is the fact that when it's in your system long enough, it makes you see things, but it'll also make you think that another person in front of you is something else that is trying to kill you. So it really depends on like how like how we mentioned earlier is that like it would cause you to have like heart attacks. Like it would literally leave you dying in fear, like just pure fear. But there are other times where some of the members of or some of the crew had also killed the other crew members because they were seeing them as this like creature or whatever, or this other type of entity,
Or
and they would kill them.
Yeah. But yeah, let's go with the game now a bit more. So as they traveled, like I remember one and I quote the guy, it's like, man, this is like it's a ghost ship, but it's like almost like but it's like feels like, usually when you enter something spooky, you get the feeling, but something about it's like even a little higher than that. Like you're entering something that's not even like feels real. Like you're in a nightmare.
Yeah.
So like they wander, as you go, but what's great about the game, get some clues of like the soldiers and the fictional soldiers on the ship, and like see what happened. You get some notes on like stuff, and then you get your secrets to learn more what's happening of how they're writing the story. But as the story goes, I mean, I'll give it to AJ a bit more since I haven't seen it since it came out, so that was a long time ago.
Well, I'm also still kind of getting into the refresher, so I'm in this section where they I believe it was Alex and Julia. They had, I think, fell into this literal like section of the ship that is just flooded, so they fell into water, And
Yeah.
now it's where I think like Julia is having this like flashback to when they were in this like sunken aircraft. This I think it was like a bomber, I believe, like a bomber plane.
Yeah, that's
And
yeah.
yeah, so I'm like at the beginning of that section right now. I haven't paused. I'm not touching it right now because my focus is on here. Uh, but it's interesting because in this moment, I think this is also something that you can pick up with one of the um, previous like photos that you could look at that'll show you a glimpse of something happening later down in the game. And I think this is like just before that, or at least one of those, I think. I could be wrong. Also to get a little off track for a moment, just because I want to have this joke out there just because you could basically say that the Man of Medan game is based off like Scarecrow's fear toxin from DC.
Yeah.
Like on steroids. It's I love it because it's just like it even has you as the player itself on edge at all times. So it really like gets you in the sense of like, oh shit, okay, what is real and what is fake?
Yeah, because in certain points in the game, there's this thing where like you have to hide. But here's the thing:
Yeah,
they show
I
the
hate
heart
those,
rates.
by
They
the
show
way.
the heart rates, but what's very creative the game, you're going based on the player's breath. I think.
Yeah,
You're going by
yeah.
the base of your
So
breath.
there's, I think they also do that in the Until Dawn game. If a lot of you have played that, they have that same thing, that same
And until dawn, they actually have you to test your steadiness on the controller.
yeah, they have that same like game component for that, but instead where it's like you have to be still with the controller is that you actually have to press on the heartbeats. So that will like initiate the character to stay calm. But if you miss one of those, or if you hit it too early, it will.
It will trigger like a chase scene or maybe possibly a death scene.
Yeah. So
I
I hate those. By the way, I was since I replayed the game today for the first time in a few years. I got to the first part of it when they're doing the introduction of the game. So like it's in the 1940s. It's like during basically the outbreak of the chemical agent on board of the ship, and everybody's starting to hallucinate and everything and whatnot. It's the easiest section of that in the game because it keeps you pretty well like centered, and it's not rushing you too fast to press on the sections of the heartbeat. So it's not like you got to like hammer it down or like pace yourself a bit and then go faster. Like it's genuinely like you get the rhythm into it at first, and it's like that first like section of the game where it's teaching you how to, like on the like movements and everything and like all the aspects of like the controls, but it is the easiest part of that whole component of the game. And then later on, it gets so much harder because they kind of like pick up the pace as you play the game. And each like section you have to hide and do that. So it gets harder and harder every time.
Not only that, the choices are actually it tests you.
Oh yeah.
Because sir, you
Oh
like,
yeah. I had gotten to a point where you had the opportunity to like either distract the people outside of this like room that they basically lock you in on the ship, or like barricade the door. I chose to barricade the door, and Phyllis, the captain of the ship that they get captured on technically and are using for like the diving stuff, helps this character named Conrad into barricading the door with this like large table. I thought in my decision on to hide with the others, Fliss was going to go first in front of me and do that. No, I literally, so basically, this is where like it really does trick you. I think if you like continue to push the table against the door, Fliss will be the one who goes to hide with the others, and then you're the one in her place getting basically captured, and you have to walk around the ship with this one guy that's like completely like freaking out horribly. I mean, he is spooked with every like corner they take. It is actually unsettling, in my opinion. But if you choose to hide as Conrad with the others, then Fliss is the one who gets basically captured and then has to walk around with this guy. And my thought at the time doing this was that if I had hit the hide option, was that it would have Fliss go in first and then you would go in second. But this is where like one of the parts where it tricks you with the decisions is that it has the opportunity to do exactly what you're like wanting to do, but it has a like kind of trap setting within this, which is why it has this importance in making these decisions, because some of these decisions have consequences.
So yeah, it's just like, so I guess, I mean, right now we pretty much told the story and the game, but before we maybe slowly wrap up for tonight, well, I had a, apologies, I had a thought to share we could do about the game. Crap.
What you thinking about? What are some of the basic thoughts you have?
Like it was like about like something about the game, the choices. Uh, I can't believe I hate when this happens. Like I had like a good thing to do to maybe like slowly wrap things up about the game. Like so, we told you this. No, like the story of it, we got what from the information that's out there. You should try it. As for the game
Yeah,
perspective,
I highly recommend playing the game. It's very fun.
as the game, as for like the game perspective, yeah. Sorry guys. I'm actually at a lost for words. There's something I wanted to close out that would have been fun, but I guess.
Well, I mean, I might have something to kind of close it out. That's if you can't fully
you go
figure it out.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, regarding the choices for this game, I'd say I definitely say you really have to pay attention. But at the same time, you got to think on your feet. You got to think fast, and I'd say at times go with your gut, just to see where like it leads you, or if you really want to go with like different choices, because like I said in the post as well earlier this week, is that it doesn't just like, it's not like a one and done thing, so you can replay it and do like different things and pick different choices. And I know that for the most part it does end off with them getting like picked up in a helicopter, I think.
Yeah. So like at the end of the game, well, here's the thing. There's multiple endings. There's even some secret endings. For example,
Yeah.
if you went for the first option, went for your gut, and go for the escape, and you escaped. So let's just say, well, all it pans out, some of the survivors, depending on your choices later on, they escaped. The creepiest part is the person comes back in the boat to the same ship. And remember, he has never went into it. And they did a little jump scare where, like, I guess whatever his fear is, I forgot the person who it is, but whatever that fear is, it not attacks, but it does like a quick jump scare.
Yeah, it definitely kind of like lunges at him a bit, and
but
it forces him to. Well, let's just say it. I believe it initiates a death scene. I think. I could be wrong. I surprisingly actually didn't do that route. I actually didn't have where Conrad had went to take the boat.
There's all these other endings. Like, for example, in the beginning, the very beginning, there's a different. So the one outcome, the regular ending, is where the soldier that you are, he talks about his son back in like New York. So he talks about that so much. So as a of course, if you're soldier in arms, you have a family, so you always want to protect your family, your kids. So it's like for this person,
but I think it's also not just about protection, because he did kind of mention, well, like, is he going to be okay? Like, what's his life going to be like?
What's going to be like? Like, how am I doing?
I think it was kind of interesting because the way he was wording it, and it really represents a lot of times with like the mindset of a soldier. I mean, at times you really don't know exactly if you are going to make it home.
So, like,
and a lot of times that is like the biggest fear for soldiers, is that they're not afraid to make it home. So when they get these like type of opportunities, they'll ask, oh, well, what is my kid going to be like? Like, how is his lifestyle is going to be growing up? Stuff like that. So, I mean, that's like another half of the whole option I think Aman was talking about.
Yeah, but there's like different endings. So then it's like the kid pops up. He's like a ghoul, not a ghoul, but it's like he's like a ghost. I don't know. There's a certain scary.
He's definitely like this, like dark entity. We'll kind of label it that.
He dies, but then there's like other outcomes. So like in the very beginning, sorry to share this. In the very beginning, before he gets on the ship, he does a little like fortune.
Yeah.
And he tells them about like, oh, the thing you're carrying is pretty much going to spook you to death. And he's like, well, I don't believe that. And then it's like, oh, it happened. So, but he actually pops up because he's like the fortune guy. He's like, see, I told you. Or his buddy, he sees him like dead, and then he kind of, I mean, that's the regular ending. But what's great about that is that like in the very beginning, those characters are supposed to die, at least to give you a story. So you can't let them live. If that would be interesting, but
that would be kind of interesting.
They are supposed to die. But anyway, I got a way to end it now. So that's it for the Man and Medan. So they've done multiple installments. They did the one about H.H. Holmes. They done one about this one kind of about this bus driver goes into town, but about this town long ago used to live with a family that died in a house fire, but it's somehow coming back to it so many years later. The game converts into use the witch trials type in that era. I don't know if you know this one, and the survivors is him as a young one with his family. And the story goes, you're in this thick fog, but what it is actually, he was unconscious, so his brain, since he was thinking of going back to a town that his family died in the house, so they did a little scary. They changed it up and try out witch trials because I guess the creepiest part is the little sister is the like. I guess the demon in this, like,
okay.
She's not part of the family, but it's like she's kind of like your traveler, because it takes you goes back forward and back. I mean, there's no word saying it, but goes in time. But then like the also parts is that actually you meet a guy that's actually the real person, and it ends up being his like one of his friends, but he doesn't know because it was actually anyway. But like at the end, it will tell you what you were going through was actually just the person you are was being like you were like delusional. You were like going through, and you're like kind of going through town like as if you were there first time ever. So stuff like that. And then there's one by H.H. Holmes, as you know, the first serial killer at the Chicago State Fair. Someone does a copycat version of it.
Personally, would love to play that game, just because.
And then the other one, lastly, is about pretty much like it's soldiers against vampires. We'll just say that. So it's like in like a tomb or something, but thanks for tuning in for another episode. Hope you enjoy it. Make sure maybe do some research of your own or play the game.
Definitely play the game. Yeah. Definitely play the game. I highly recommend it. It's such a great way of like getting this sense of storytelling. So, I mean.
And as always, if you want us to continue, we can keep continuing just to break down the other series. So thanks for tuning in. Have a good night and have a good week.